Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to try and keep this quick because this time is more suited for tilawat and dhikr, adhkar and dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I gave Maulana my word that I will come. So we'll zip through this inshallah. So Ramadan is a perfect opportunity for you to take control of your health. And I strongly recommend, sisters listening at home, just try and follow as best as you can, because this is going to be a radical change. And when I deliver this talk, especially in Gujarati masjids, they really don't like it, what I'm about to say. So I'm warning you. So this is what is predicated on. Ramadan is not a festival. I'm sorry. Ramadan is not a festival. And don't treat it like one either. And if you start off like that, the rest will be easy to understand. It's an ibadah. It's a month of ibadah, engaging with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, controlling your nafs and allowing your soul to engage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a perfect time to calibrate a lot of things, especially your health. Now what people think, especially us, what we think Ramadan is not eating, not drinking, having huge feasts in the iftari and massive iftari events, but that's not what Ramadan is. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It's actually a perfect chance to calibrate all these things that's on this. And one of them is your health, which is based on self-discipline. So there's elements of well-being. If you want to be in optimum health long term, okay, it's not just about a diet, okay? It's about all these things. One, right at the top, is nutritious diet, not a diet to lose weight. A long-term, nutritious, sustainable diet. Because most people, they go on a diet, they lose weight, but it's hard to keep that weight off. They put it back on very, very quickly. But if you go on a nutritious diet, long-term, lifelong, your weight will be more stable. Physical activity, aiming for at least 150 minutes a week, which is nothing more than 22 minutes and 30 seconds a day of walking. That'll do. This needs more detail, but I'm just scratching the surface. The next one is emotional regulation, looking after your mental health basically, which is a topic in itself. Sleep, aiming for at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep over a 24-hour period. However you want to do it, but at least try and get 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep. The obvious one is avoiding substance misuse, so avoiding alcohol, drugs, shisha, smoking. Muslims do all these things. You won't be in good health if you do any of these things. And then the most important for us is spiritual growth. If you tap into your spirit, to your soul, and deeply engage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll feel infinitely greater physically, mentally, than if you don't. And it's never too late to reset your body, ever. So just have some of the brothers who are close by, how many weeks do you think it takes for your body to start repairing itself? If you've had a lifetime of bad habits, how long does it take for your body to start repairing itself? Just have a guess. 3 weeks. Bas. Now we've already gone, 1 week of Ramadan has gone. So you've still got 3 weeks, okay, to repair yourself. And then within 3 months you'll see massive changes. So I have a patient, he's amongst us. He's one of our brothers. He's one of my patients. His blood pressure is really high. He's my age, he's under 40. And I went through his diet, terrible diet, and he's changed, and in 6 weeks without any medication his blood pressure is normalized. I've got another patient, he weighed 152 kilograms. 152 kilograms, he was huge, okay? Desperate to not go on medication. In 10 weeks he lost 20 kilograms. No medication. In 10 weeks his cholesterol went from 7.8 to 3.6. No medication. So it's possible to change, you just got to believe, okay? But why is it important? Because look, nearly 60% of us, when I say us, I mean Afro-Caribbean, Asian, non-whites, 60% of us are overweight or obese. That's a terrible statistic to be proud of as a community. Okay, your Prophet ﷺ was not overweight. If you read his accounts, his stomach and his chest was flat throughout his whole life. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So 60% of us are overweight, and 40% of our children are overweight. Because culturally, what do? We just feed our kids. If you don't have with all respect, I told you I offend people when I give these talks. If we don't have a fat kid, he's not a happy kid. That's the way we see it in our culture. We just eat. It's true, Akil. In our culture, it's like eat. The other thing, and we don't eat right things either. Less than 50% of us don't eat fruit and veg in this country. Mental health I've talked about before, so you can read it. But 30% of us are inactive. That means 1 in 3 people here don't do more than 30 minutes of physical activity a week. Okay? This is why it's so important to talk about these things. And then what happens is if you are overweight or obese, it causes all these problems. And I guarantee you here, everybody knows somebody with heart disease. Everybody knows somebody with high blood pressure. Everybody knows somebody with it's true, isn't it? With diabetes. Being overweight or being obese puts you at risk of developing 13 types of cancers. How many? 13 alone. That's without smoking, that's without radiation, without anything else. So it's ridiculously important to deal with this. And look, COVID hasn't gone away. I know it's not in the news. I know suddenly, it's just disappeared. It hasn't. The past 4 to 6 weeks at work has been rough. It's like we're back to square one again. It's not gone away. But why is it important? Because 3/4 of people who were in ITU with COVID were overweight or obese. Put away age, put away smoking, put away lung disease, heart disease, put everything to the side. 3/4 were overweight or obese, and you have a 50% increased risk of dying just by being overweight or obese alone. And vaccine or no vaccine, it works less in people who are overweight or obese. So this hasn't gone away, and it'll take a while for it to go away. So it's still with us. So it's really important to address it. Now, along with that, when you have a medical problem, whether you have weight problems or not, if you have an illness, it affects you physically. Do you feel good? No. Psychologically, it affects you. Do you feel good psychologically when you're not well? No. Spiritually, it affects you as well. And they're all interlinked. It's not one thing that will make you feel great. You have to approach yourself as holistically as possible, and that's why it's really important to address it. Now, the month of Ramadan has come. It's every year. It's a reset for your soul, but it's also a potential reset for your body as well. This is proven scientifically how beneficial fasting is. Your sugar control, if you do it properly, if you do it properly, your sugar will come down and it will be more controlled. It'll be more at a baseline. Okay? You will lose weight if you do it properly. You will burn fat without moving if you do it properly. Your blood pressure will come down if you do it properly. Your cholesterol will come down if you do it properly. You'll feel good here if you do it properly. Like your cognition, your ability to respond from here is infinitely greater when you fast and you do it properly. Okay? How do you think the Huffaz here do Tarawih? All day they're not eating, and they hardly make a mistake. Because when you're fasting, your brain is actually more engaged because you haven't clogged it with rubbish, especially sugar, which we'll come to. And it's proven to delay aging. You look younger for longer. Some of the lads' eyes have opened up now, especially those who aren't married. It eases depression, proven. Makes you feel more alive. It cleanses your soul. Doesn't it? The moment you get a text message, Ramadan's here, hasn't your spark for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased overnight? Like in an instant. Okay? It improves your experience with Allah, your engagement with Allah, and your religion becomes more meaningful. You're not like a robot anymore. Your soul starts to engage more. Now, it's not just for Ramadan. You can feel free to look at this. There's a famous 5-2 diet. The doctor who developed this, he actually quotes the Prophet ﷺ, that he used to do it twice a week. It's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Look at intermittent fasting if you can. Needs a lot more talk. But remember, we have sunnah fasts all year round. Monday, Thursday, Ayyamul Bid, 13th, 14th, 15th of every lunar month. Obviously Ramadan, 6 fasts of Shawwal. Make sure you commit to that after Ramadan. The 2 of Muharram, the first 9 of Dhul Hijjah. If you do those regularly, you fast for 40% of the year. So win-win situation. The Prophet ﷺ said himself, Sumu tasihu, fast and just watch your health improve. Okay, so if you do it properly. So we're going to talk about how to do it properly. Okay, the key messages are this. Just remember 2 things. Okay, eat less. Okay, consciously be aware of this one. Eat less in Ramadan at Sahri and Iftar, and I'll come to how to do it. And the second thing is eat right. And eating right is predicated on knowing your food. If you look at the world around us, it's impossible to be healthy. When was the last time you saw on a TV advert or a billboard, broccoli, buy one, get one free? Do you see that? You don't see it because it doesn't sell. All these 2-for-1 deals and adverts, they're all there to just light up your nafs, your lower self. that calls towards nothing but just problems. It just lights it up, so you go for it. We move less than ever before. Since 1980, the human beings, we're moving 80% less in over a 40-year period because of the nature of the ease of transport, the nature of our jobs and so forth. Foods are now pumped with more fat, sugar and salt to make it taste nice, look nice and stay on the shelf for longer. Hands up, who here has had organic brown flakes? Okay, it's disgusting. It really is, because they don't put any sugar in it for it to taste nice. The fast food industry has taken off. I mean, if I were you, make a commitment in Ramadan to let go of takeaway food, unless it's, now and again. Not when I say now and again, like when you need to, i.e. you can't physically cook or your other half can't cook because they're tired. But it should not be a weekly in and out thing. You're eating absolute rubbish, like full stop. And I've seen it with my own eyes. They recycle food. Some people will be eating something, they haven't finished it, I've seen it with my own eyes, and they take it and they put it back in the big deg, the big pot, to be used again. You don't know what's going in your mouth. It's just rubbish. Our portions are getting bigger, they're becoming more American, Canadian styles. And when you go to the checkout, again, you see rubbish. You see things that are just quick, finger foods, and you go, it's tempting to buy. Now, if you want to, I'm just scratching the surface, but if you want more information, get hold of these two books, read them. Felicity Lawrence and Joanna Blithman. It's an eye-opener, and you'll think 100 times before you put something in your mouth. And strongly recommend, okay, it's more expensive, but play the long game. It's about your life. If you can spend £40 on your phone contract, you can drop it a little bit and spend money on your health. But go organic. It's well worth it. So the question is, before we go to, okay, how do you make it work? You've got to ask yourself a serious question, okay? What's your relationship with food? Is it healthy or is it unhealthy? And the litmus test is this. When you see this doner kebab, is your mouth watering? Because if it is, you've got a really unhealthy relationship with food. I'm looking at it thinking, that is disgusting. That looks really gross. The last time I had this, I could feel oil coming out of my face. Okay? But that's how you know if you've got a healthy or unhealthy relationship. And the bottom line is this, again, put your phones away and read books. Okay? Put your phones away. They're just wasting your time. You lose 5 years of your life by the time you hit 60 by virtue of your phone. Okay? Read books. Vera Tarman, Canadian, she's wrote this book called Food Junkies. The essential truth is that we're addicted to foods. A lot of us experience a lot of pleasure from food and comfort. Okay? That's one of the biggest reasons why we eat. Why is that important? Because for Ramadan, you've got to ask yourself, who's in charge here? Who's in charge? Am I in charge, or is it my nafs? Your nafs, Allah's given it to you. It's your lower self. It doesn't call towards good. Ammaratu bisu illa ma rahima rabbi. It calls towards things that are just wrong, except whoever Allah has mercy on. It's not designed to call towards good. Your soul is. That's why Ramadan is a good reset. Question yourself. Do you eat to live, or do you live to eat? It's a difference. Are you in charge, or is food in charge? Do you know when to stop, essentially? You've got to ask yourself these questions and ask yourself, am I addicted? Litmus test again. After Ramadan, if you find yourself going into the kitchen, going into the cupboard and putting stuff in your mouth for no reason, you're probably addicted, okay? Okay, so for Ramadan, how do you make it work? Because you've got a chance now to break this, because you're only allowed to eat twice a day. What I suggest, I'm going to give you a blueprint, and I want you to use it for the rest of your life. And watch your health improve, and watch your weight be far more stable. You won't have a yo-yo diet. Okay? And neither will you need to take any pills. A lot of people, including our brothers, they take pills, either laxatives to help them lose weight, or they take weight loss pills. That's abnormal. To take something to help you lose weight is abnormal. You can do this without any pills. Blueprint. And I'll break this down for you a bit more. At Sehri and Iftar, go for protein-rich foods and what's known as slow-release carbohydrates. And I'll break this down for you, okay? Drink at least 1 litre to 1.5 litres of water when you can drink. Okay? Akil sat here, he trained me before I got married. Okay? And he said to me, most people mistake thirst for hunger. They're not hungry, they're thirsty, and that's true. That's totally true. So drink tons of water. If you can't stomach that much water, have melon and cucumber. It's just water. Okay? water-based foods, okay? And inshallah, you will remain less hungry. Not only in Ramadan, I mean Ramadan's full of barakah, you won't remain hungry in Ramadan anyway, but outside Ramadan you won't remain hungry. So what are protein-rich foods? So for sehri, have eggs. Ton is fine. You won't. There's lots of bad press with eggs. It won't harm you. Your cholesterol will hardly go up. Okay, fine to have eggs. Have meat. Yesterday I had 2 homemade lamb burgers with egg. No bread, no nothing. I'll come to why bread's a problem in a minute. That was my sehri. 2 homemade lamb burgers. These, the Gujarati size. These can juice, aren't we? We only give small portions, right? Small ones, right? 2 small lamb burgers and 1 egg. And a glass of water. That was my sehri. Protein rich, okay? Fish. Try it. Try and have salmon and spinach with poached egg for breakfast. It's absolutely delicious. And it'll keep you going. Obviously you can't have dal for breakfast. No one can stomach that. But think iftar. Fine to have egg, meat, fish at iftar. Fine to have dal. It's tons of protein. Chickpeas or hummus is fine. Nuts in small portions nuts, okay? It's full of protein. That's protein-rich foods, okay? That's the main things you want to go for, okay? And when it comes to carbs, carbohydrates, which is essential, go for the top list, not the bottom list. The top list is complex carbs. This is slow release. It's released in your system over a longer period. The bottom one is fast release. Basically, when you're hungry or you need energy, you have a chocolate bar, you have a biscuit, you have a can of Coke, you have a donut just to give yourself a kick. You'll have a crash within 2 hours. So take yourself outside Ramadan. Who here has their Frosties, Cocoa Pops or whatever? You have your breakfast at 8 o'clock and then by 10 o'clock you have a crash. It's true, isn't it? Because what happens is that sugar's burnt off very, very quickly and then you get hungry very quickly. Whereas if you have the top group, complex carbohydrates, it stays in your system for longer. You don't feel hungry. So right at the top you've got, basically think brown. Okay? Think brown, think whole meal. So, and veg, which is full of complex carbohydrates that's released slowly. Okay? At the top you can see a bowl. If you're going to have cereal, have porridge oats. I had that this morning. Porridge oats with a few dates sprinkled on top, milk and a glass of water. That was my sehri this morning. And by Allah, I'm not hungry. By virtue of Allah, I'm not hungry. And it was a small bowl. And I mean a small bowl. I don't mean a huge bowl. I mean a small bowl. Okay? But avoid the bottom ones. Okay, why is this important? So look at this. This is by Dr. David Unwin, who's a GP, fellow GP up north. And he's open about this. He's developed diabetes. And he was like, wow, how did this happen? So he went through his whole diet. This was his average breakfast. It looks healthy, doesn't it? Bowl of brown flakes, brown toast, and a glass of apple juice. Does that look healthy? It's 16 teaspoons of sugar equivalent. Okay? Why is that important? Because if you're having a diet that's high in carbohydrate, natural or added sugars, okay? If it's high and you're doing it for decades, you know the hormone insulin? Everybody knows the hormone insulin, right? That's there to get that sugar from the bloodstream into the muscle where it needs it for energy. With time, if you're having decades of high carb diet, with time, that insulin doesn't work as well as it should or could. Then you end up with diabetes. Now check this out. I'm sorry, Gujarati kids love Cocoa Pops, yeah? But you got to stop having Cocoa. It's 7 teaspoons of sugar in your bowl. And this is like 30 grams. You know the variety boxes that you get? Not our pour it in massive bowl. I'm talking variety box. That's 7 teaspoons of sugar. It's a grain. Okay, what you're eating is grain. It's carbohydrate. Would you put 7 teaspoons of sugar in your bowl of cereal? Would anybody do that here? No, right? Look at cornflakes. Cornflakes, for Allah's sake. 8 teaspoons of sugar equivalent. Now, this is when Gujaratis really don't like me. Look at rice. 10 is natural sugar, but it's the equivalent of 10 teaspoons. And this is a normal 150 gram serving. I'm not talking about one of our mountain plates. Have you seen our plates? When we have food, it's like a mountain, isn't it? It's tons of sugar. One potato has got 9 teaspoons of sugar equivalent. And the list goes on. Look right at the bottom. Eggs. 0. It doesn't spike your sugars. Okay? The bottom line, why I'm going on about this, is this. Look, it's sugar that's making us fat. It's not fats. And it's sugar that's making us ill. Sugar, in any of its forms, is 27 times more addictive than cocaine. 27 times, bro. That's insane. So in other words, a lot of these food companies, they've got you where, I'm not going to say in the masjid, but they've got you, right? That's where addiction kicks in. Now there's more evidence, far more evidence scientifically, that you will lose more weight on a low carb diet than a low fat diet. Within 10 days of a low carb diet, you'll lose 1 kilogram. Within 10 days, okay? Within 10 days of no processed food, so I mean like oven foods, microwave foods, takeaways, just rubbish. If you stop that completely, you'll lose 2 kilograms within 10 days. I wasn't going to mention this, but on the processed foods, 60% of our diet is processed foods. If you have a diet that's only 30% processed, your chances of cancer increase by 20%. So just processed food, just avoid it. Basically, homegrown stuff, organic stuff, cook it yourself, make it at home. Don't buy rubbish, basically. And I don't want to offend anybody in their business, but it's just like, I'm a useless husband. I can't cook, won't cook, will never cook, right? So once my wife, she wasn't feeling too good, so I went to one of the shops around here and I got halal, one of these 100%. Why do they put 100% halal? It's either halal or it's not halal. But 100% halal burger, right? I put it in the oven, and after I put it in, I think, let me just read the packaging. I put it in, let me read the pack. It had 60 ingredients. 60. If you ever come shopping with me, you'll be annoyed because I look at the ingredients for ages, right? I went to one of the shops around here, there was a lamb kebab, right? And guess what? 30% was chicken. You're just eating rubbish, right? If you want more information, read these 2 books. Robert Lustig is a world-famous endocrinologist. He's big on this. Metabolical and about sugar, okay? It's just, sugar's a big problem, okay? Just get rid of it. If you are interested and you want to do a deep dive, especially if you've got any heart problems, look at the Peyote diet by Asim Malhotra, who's a cardiologist from down south, or Ranesh Sina's South Asian Health Solution. It's both really good reads, but like I said, get hold of them, take control of your health, seize the opportunity. Now I'll give you a couple of quick wins, because when I do these, a lot of people say, well, what am I supposed to eat then? You said no rice, no bread, no potato. That's my staple diet. What am I supposed to eat? I'll give you a couple of tips, okay? Don't have it, but don't have it more than twice a week. Agreed? Have it, but don't have it more than twice a week. And agree on another thing. Make a commitment with Allah right now. I'm going to have it no more than twice a week, but I'm also going to have small portions. Small portion. I'll come to why in a second. Okay, swap your naan, roti, chapati, bread, whatever you call it, for a green leafy vegetable. Just try it, okay? Take any curry. Instead of having it with roti, get a cabbage leaf and just use it as a dip, because it's a psychological thing, okay? Do that instead of having it. Instead of rice, have fine chopped vegetables. Fine chopped so it looks like rice, or buy broccoli rice or cauliflower rice and put it into your salan and have it with a spoon. Honestly, you do these 2 things within a week, you'll get used to it, okay? So no more than twice. I mean, ideally, just cut it out as much as you can. But if you can't, no more than twice a week. And if, on the days where you don't have it, do these swaps instead, and watch your weight shift. Instead of potato, have cauliflower. Word of warning: it gives you a lot of wind. Okay, but it's better than, it's got less sugar content, so it'll be fine. Just a quick bit on fats. Okay, obviously there's a lot of men here. You're all probably useless like me. If you're gonna cook in olive oil. Okay, it's the most healthiest oil on the planet. Avocado is one of these amazing things that's just super healthy, okay? I've got a thing for guacamole right now. It's really, really nice. Try it. It's good for you. Fish, like we talked about, good fats. Good fats are essentially there when you need it for energy, okay? They don't clog your arteries. The other 2 groups, okay, where it says limit it, and I mean limit it. Do not have it more than twice a week. Think cream. We like it on our cereal. Think in our tea and coffee. Avoid it completely if you can. Limit your butter. Limit your cheese, especially cheese, okay? Limit it no more than twice a week. Limit your fats on meat. We don't do that. Any Muslims don't tend to do that. And where it says lose it, lose it. Completely lose the Krispy Kreme, the cakes, the biscuits, the junk. Completely lose it unless it's a celebration. This should not be an everyday or even every week thing. Get rid of it. Reason why is because when they make this, the oil that they use, okay, you need oil to make every single type of food on the planet. The oil that they use for this, when they make these things, it gets converted from liquid to solid. When you eat it, it's rock hard to burn off, and it's really hard to burn. It clogs arteries. So, I know I'm rushing because I'm conscious of your time, because it's time for dua between us and Maghrib. If you want a deep dive, there's loads of these videos that I've done with other massages that's on YouTube. Feel free to have a look. For Sehri, what I recommend is have a good one, because the Prophet ﷺ said so. Okay? Don't skip it. Even if you think, yeah, I'm 10 men, I can do it, no problem, bro, don't skip it, okay? The Prophet ﷺ said there's barakah in it, do it. If he says it, do it. Khalas, that's your blueprint in life. There's barakah in it. Basically, having it stops you from being hungry because there's barakah in it. Now, what I suggest you do is think about having protein-rich foods, slow-release carbs, and drink plenty of water, especially trying those water-based foods that we talked about. Right, that's the easy bit. Let me talk about iftar, because iftar is the hard bit. Who here is a regular Masjid Noor? Hands up. Okay, what do they do for iftari here? That's it. Brilliant. Do you know what they do at my masjid? The imam, because he loves us, he gives us 7 minutes. Right? The adhan goes, everybody's on the dastakan. And there's pizza, there's chips, there's chicken wings, there's this, right? It's the only time in the year where my son runs to the masjid. I'm not telling you, bro, because you got to stay away. So, like, he'll be like, I said to him, why don't you come today? He goes, no, I can't. I've got to go to iftari. When it gets to 10 minutes before Maghrib, he goes, Daddy, can I go to the masjid? I'm like, yeah, go. He said, no problem, right? And so that's brilliant that you do that here. Now, break your fast with dates and water, zamzam, if you can. Nothing else, right? 3 to 5 dates, that's it. If you're diabetic, no more than 3, okay? But 3 to 5 dates and water, and that's it. Now, this is the most important bit. Eat once after Maghrib. How many times? Once. Because what happens is that you have sehri. If you have iftari in my masjid, you have a big fat iftari. Then you come home and you have to eat a lot when you go home, because your mum or your wife will batter you because they've been in the kitchen all day, right? And you have to eat like mad. Then what happens is you have that crash because you're eating all the wrong things. It's time for tarawih. You think, I'm going to be standing for 2 hours. Let me just have some more. So you'll eat a little bit more before you leave. Isn't that what we do? We do that, right? Then we come home after tarawih. If it's Friday, Saturday, lads will go to Kara's Chippy and have a little scran. Or they'll go to Chaiwala's. Or they'll go home. There's always left over and then eat again. Okay, how many times did you eat in a 24-hour period? 5 times. Okay? That's why the weight of the Muslim, this is proven, go and look online, the weight of the Muslim goes up in Ramadan. Because we're having 5 meals. Right? So what you do, you eat once after Maghrib, following the list of foods that we talked about. And when you eat, and I'll come to this in a second, don't eat as if you've never seen food before. Okay? Do not do that. You're defeating the object of Ramadan completely. Okay? So, avoid especially, this is where Gujaratis hate me, no fried foods, no samosas, bro, sorry. Okay? No samosa, no spring rolls, none of that. If you're going to have it as air fried. It's fine air frying it, but don't deep fry it. Okay? It sticks on you and it's hard to burn off. Avoid sugary foods that we talked about because you'll have a crash. Avoid processed foods because you're eating rubbish, so avoid takeaways as well. Limit your salt in your food because it makes you thirsty. Avoid at all costs sunflower oil and corn oil, especially corn oil. It makes you fat and it makes you tired as well. So when you look at food labels, avoid corn oil, okay? Or fructose syrup. It just ruins you. And limit your caffeine. So try not to have more than 2 small cups over the 24-hour period because it makes you urinate and you'll get dehydrated. Eventually, your plate should look like this. Okay, some of you are like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that before, right? 2 things you'll notice. Half of it is colourful, okay? And the second thing you'll notice is that it's flat, okay? It's not a mountain plate like our plates at home. It's a flat plate, and right at the top is water. Why is water so important? Studies have shown that people who just drink water have a 40% increase in weight loss than people who don't drink water. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ only ever drank 2 things in his life regularly. One was water, and the second was milk. And there's a reason why he did that, ﷺ, because he was a genius when it came to things like this. But if you go back, look, so a quarter protein, more if you can, and then a quarter whole grain, half of it should be fruit and veg. Okay? If you come to my house, you'll see 2 massive plates. You'll see 1 massive plate of veg and 1 massive plate of fruit that we have at iftar. So try it. Now, quick note for diabetes: don't change anything without speaking to your GP. Okay? Don't, you get me in trouble. But speak to your GP and only do this if you're not on insulin. If you're on insulin, this won't work for you. If you're not on insulin, you have type 2 diabetes, go to your GP. It's a perfect chance to reverse, and I mean that, reverse your diabetes and possibly come off medication as well. And if you're really interested and you want a deep dive, look at the 8-week blood sugar diet. We put our patients on this. I'll say it again, it reverses diabetes. Patients come off medication, okay? Now also keep active as well because muscle loss is common. If I keep my arm in a sling for 6 months, what would happen to my muscles in my arm? It would atrophy, okay? In Ramadan, we don't become active because we're worried we might fall over. You won't. You'll be fine. Keep as active as you can. If you want to make it easy for yourself, after you have iftari, instead of sitting there, crashing out, and then going on your phone, wasting your time, doom scrolling, why don't you just go and look at what's called the 7-minute scientific workout. 7-minute scientific workout. Just do that, half an hour iftari, it'll keep you going. Now I'll finish here, okay? You don't need to listen to me. You don't need to listen to anything I have to say if you just look at the way of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because he had it down to a T, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when it came to anything, right? Because it was divine. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He never spoke from his own caprice. It was all wahi. It was all divine wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَا مَلَا ابْنِ آدَمْ وِعَاءً شَرًّا مِّن بَطْنِهِ بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمْ لُقَيْمَاتٍ يُقِمْنَ الصُّلْبَةَ فَإِنْ كَانَ لَا مَحَلَ لَهُ وَلَا بُدَّ لَهُ فَثُلُثُ لِطَعَامِهِ وَثُلُثُ لِشَرَابِهِ وَثُلُثُ لِنَفَسِهِ. Very famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, there's no vessel that the son of Adam fills worse than his stomach. No vessel worse than his stomach that the son of Adam fills. It's enough for the son of Adam to have luqaymat. Now linguistically, pay attention to this. Luqaymat, according to our ulama, means 3 to 9 small morsels. Luqma is morsel. Luqayma is small morsel. Luqaymat, linguistically, is 3 to 9 small morsels. Okay, that's enough for you. Yuqimna sulba. The Prophet ﷺ is talking about the purpose of food is to just function, to keep your back straight. That's the purpose of food. Go back a few slides. Why do you eat? What's your relationship with food? It shouldn't be for pleasure. It should be to function. Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ defined this. Now, if you can't do 3 to 9 morsels, because that's really hard, if you can't do that, follow this. 1/3 for food, you've heard this. 1/3 for liquid and 1/3 for air. Okay, now check this out. About 600-700 years ago, the Muslims of Baghdad used to be the central of medicine. If you wanted to become a medical student, you had to go to Baghdad, basically. The Christians, Jews, Buddhists, whoever they were, they'd go and study with the Muslims. One Christian doctor, famous Christian doctor, he came to Baghdad, he read this hadith and he said, مَا سَمِعْتُ كَلَامًا أَعْجَبَ عَنْ هَذَا عَنْ قِلَّةِ الطَّعَامِ. I've not heard anything more amazing about how to reduce your food intake than this statement. This was a Christian doctor. Now fast forward to 2020 when I started doing these talks. Remember when I first came in 2020? One of my colleagues at work, she asked me, your Prophet talks? My Prophet talks about everything. What do you want to know? She said, well, what do you say about health? And I said this hadith to her. And she nearly fell off her chair. She said, if the world followed this, game over. There won't be no health problem. Now these are two people in completely different generations of time who understand the genius of the Prophet ﷺ. I ask you, we're Muslims. When we read things like this, we shouldn't read it like a newspaper or a magazine. You need to own it. So commit yourself that, you know what, 1/3 food, 1/3 liquid, 1/3 air. Watch your health improve. The Prophet ﷺ also said, "Inna min as-sarf an ta'kula kulla ma ishtahayt." It's enough of extravagance to eat whatever you want. Think about that. Read that over and over again. This is a prophetic definition of what extravagance is, to just eat whatever you want. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mu'minu ya'kulu fi mi'an wahid." A believer only eats with one intestine. "Wal-kafiru ya'kulu fi sab'ati am'ah." And that a non-believer eats with 7. Where are you on this scale? When you have your iftar, ask yourself, how many stomachs am I eating with? You'll know the answer. First calamity, according to our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, that befell the nation of the Prophet ﷺ after the Prophet ﷺ went from this world to the next world, was she said, remember, Aisha radiallahu anha is really important. She's one of the top 5 scholars of the Sahaba. She's narrated more about this deen than anybody from amongst the Sahaba. So she was someone who witnessed the Prophet ﷺ day in, day out. She said that when people started filling their stomachs, they became obese, they became fat. Then what happened? This is where spirituality comes in. Their hearts weakened and their desires went wild. Okay? Their hearts weakened. In other words, they wouldn't engage with Allah as much as they could or should. And then their desires just went absolutely wild. There was once a man, Umar radiallahu anhu used to circuit Medina Munawwara, just doing his job. What do people need from me? And there was this really obese man who came, and Umar radiallahu anhu came to him and he put his hand on his tummy and he said, Ma hadha? He said, what's this? And the man went, Hadha barakatullah. And he said, this is the blessings of Allah. And Umar said, this is adab. This isn't barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Really important to reflect on these things. So ask yourself, how did the Prophet ﷺ eat? How did he sit? He used to sit like this most of the time, or squatting down like this most of the time. Now these two positions, especially this one here, your GI tract, your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines, they're aligned, they're straight. Why is that important? Because when you become full, you become aware. The second thing is that he used to press his thigh on his stomach, so that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would know that if I'm becoming full, I can feel it. And then he would stop and he would go. Before he ate, while he was eating, and after he ate, he was in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try this. It'll obviously work in Ramadan because it's barakah. But after Ramadan, try it. Try eating, and with every single morsel, obviously say Bismillah, but with every single morsel say Alhamdulillah, and I guarantee you'll eat less because you'll feel full very, very quicker. He ate with 3 fingers. He ate with these 2 fingers and this thumb. It's impossible to overeat when you eat like this. There's only so much you can get into your hand, agreed? You won't overeat. And he didn't eat to his full. The Prophet ﷺ did not eat to his full, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he had no longing for food. Even as a child, even pre-prophecy, the children that the Prophet ﷺ grew up with, his cousins, Abu Talib's children, they used to say we had to go and find him because when it was mealtime, because he had no interest. And this was after prophecy. Like there was times where he'd come home and he'd ask his wife or wives, Hal indakum shay? Do you have anything at home that I can eat? Now I guarantee you nobody in this masjid has had this question when they go home. Is there anything at home? He'd say, is there anything at home for me to eat? And often the wives would say, Ma indana shay, we have nothing at home. And the Prophet ﷺ would say, Inni idhal lasa'im. In that case I'm fasting. What would we do if we went home and there was no food? But game over. You understand? Inni idhal, in other words, I don't really care. I'm fasting. Khalas. That's the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Now look at those who followed him. Okay, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, remember he grew up as a young boy at the time of prophecy. He witnessed prophecy growing up, unlike the other Sahaba who had already reached maturity. He didn't eat to his full for 12 years of his life, and they asked him why. He said, because I grew up with people, in other words, the senior Sahaba, who preferred to remain hungry. Like I talked about before, Umar radiallahu anhu, he used to only have 9 morsels because of that hadith that we talked about. 9. And he'd refuse to eat delicacies. So to put it in modern day context so you understand, he wouldn't have Krispy Kreme. And people would ask him, why are you not having this stuff? He said, who eats this stuff? And the Sahaba would say, it's the rich people of Medina. He said, I'm not eating this until the poor people eat it. Mawlana Uwais just gave a reminder about giving. Honestly, consider doing this. Quit eating out and quit eating things that are just extravagant and give that money to people who are eating their skin. Like, just think about that. And if you're going to eat out, commit to this. If I'm willing to spend 50, 60, 70, some people, I know someone who spent £400 on a breakfast once. Okay? That's how rich we are in this area. If you're willing to spend 50, 60, 70 pounds on a meal eating out, commit that Allah, when I do that, I'm going to spend exactly the same amount on somebody who's eating their skin across the world. Okay? But, he just, out of solidarity for the poor, he wouldn't eat like that. Now, the key to this is, look, switch off your phones. Switch off your phones. You're not gaining any knowledge on your phones. Okay? It's just quick wins. Switch off your phones, get hold of books, and go read the life of the Prophet ﷺ, go read the Shama'il, read Hayatus Sahaba, read the biographies of the companions, read the lives of our ulama, sulaha, awliya, and you'll find all the answers. You won't need me. Okay, now a couple of things. One of the shuyukh from Sham, he said this to us last year in Ramadan when we were doing some work with him, and he said, look, if food isn't benefiting you, if it's not making you feel good physically or spiritually, okay, you're either not eating halal. You're either not eating halal, okay? And if your income isn't halal, your food ain't going to be halal, even if they say it's 100% halal. Okay? So think about that. Really, really important. Or you're not having tayyib food, wholesome foods. You can have halal foods, but they might not be wholesome. Or, he said, you're not eating sunnah foods. Or, you're not eating in the prophetic manner. So just think about that over Ramadan. And one of the Abu Ja'far said this, إِذَا امْتَلَأَ الْبَطْنُ تَغَلْجَ. Yeah, so if when the belly is full, naturally your lower self will incline towards doing wrong. And this is what Ramadan's about. Why is it so important? Because look, the purpose of Ramadan is to break your nafs. It's to break your lower self, so that's not in charge anymore. Otherwise you haven't achieved anything in Ramadan, really. And this is why it's important, because the Prophet ﷺ defined, and this is my last slide, defined what intelligence is. Al-Kayyisu, the intelligent one, is not a doctor, is not an engineer or a lawyer or this or that, okay? Al-Kayyisu, the intelligent one, man dana nafsa, who subdues his lower self, wa amila lima ba'da al-maut, and works for what comes after he dies or she dies. Wal ajizu, the foolish one, the stupid one, the short-sighted one, man atba'a nafsahu hawaha, just lets his lower self follow his caprice wherever it wants it to go, wa tamanna ala Allah, and has false hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just ask yourself, okay, if I want to reach excellence, intelligence, okay, I need to follow this. And it's very simple. Just subdue your nafs, and it starts with food. If you can control yourself with food, with food, you will be able to control yourself with every single thing that comes your way as a test. We'll stop there. I apologize if I offended anybody, because I usually do. Usually I take questions, but it's between us and Maghrib, so apologies, no questions today. Jazakumullah khair.